Everyone, welcome. I'm just going to give people a minute to sign on. And I know we have a lot to cover, and we're just a few minutes over, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. This presentation will be recorded. And my name is Holly Johnson. I'm the Program Administrator for BatePath's Post-Professional Occupational Therapy Doctorate Program. Thank you all for being here tonight. Our hot topic tonight is advocacy for school-based OTs, and we're honored to have Dr. Elizabeth Dixon as our guest speaker. Dr. Dixon is a proud BPU alum and has over 25 years of experience in pediatric OT and more than a decade in academia. She is passionate about OT and dedicated to empowering both clients and students. Throughout the presentation, feel free to submit your questions via the chat. We will also have time for a Q&A at the end. And if you have not done so already, please be sure to mute yourself for the presentation. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Elizabeth Dixon and her presentation.
Thank you so much, Holly. I was going to say good morning, but it's not morning. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on. It's 6 o'clock my time, so I don't know where everyone's at, but hopefully I'll find that out soon. I'm going to start sharing here. And as Holly said, um, I'm very honored to have BayPath let me come and talk about advocacy for school-based OTs tonight. And I do want to know who's here today. And actually, I know it's geared towards OTs, but I would love to know where you're from, what discipline you're in, and even what role you're playing in the school system, because every one of us, even as OTs, tend to have different roles. And you can just put it right in the chat. I'm from Pennsylvania. If that helps starting. I've been in schools for well over 10 years, just as a OT consultant in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Seattle, so West Coast. So I know you're earlier. Go to Tennessee, wonderful. Southern Michigan, Jeannie, hi Jeannie, consultative, New Jersey, direct treatment public schools, New Jersey, Massachusetts. Wonderful. They're coming in now. Nevada, wow. Massachusetts, school-based Douglasville, pre-K through 12, California, wonderful. Well, it's nice to see everyone from all over. See everyone, so I love it. Um, Thank you for those of you who put you guys' where you're at and where you're from. Oh, Connecticut, full-time, 13 plus years in school, now a consultant. Great. Colorado, awesome. Really from all over. Chicago, love it. Lots of people from all over, so we have a lot of people that we can learn from, which is amazing. I love that. Well, today, what I want to talk about, and hopefully what we can learn today, is I want to give a foundational understanding for advocacy principles and leadership in our school system. We're going to explore some potential barriers to effective advocacy in the schools and recognize really the critical role of self-advocacy in promoting our own personal and professional growth. I honestly, for me, Advocacy was really overwhelming when I think of the word. I think of it very black and white, very literal, that we have to be at White House, we have to be on the steps, we need lobbyists, we need representatives and senators to do anything. And really, advocacy is the highest form of democracy, and it's the responsibility and the right of all of us. But really, advocacy comes in so many forms, and it does not have to be that huge. And we really, as OTs, we do it all the time. We are advocates every single day in every single forms. We advocate whether we're in IEP meetings, we advocate for our parents, we advocate in many ways. So it doesn't have to be on that grand of a scale. So I think initially it just always kind of freaked me out. So I had to break it down for myself. AOTA defines our advocacy for us as efforts directed toward promoting our occupational justice and really empowering clients to seek and obtain resources to support health, well-being, and occupational participation. But I really loved the National Association of School Psychologists Principles for Professional Ethics. It's a lot of words, which defines advocacy as a voice guided by expertise for the rights and welfare of students and families, and promoting changes in schools, systems, and laws that benefit school children, other students, and families. And both these definitions together, I think, is what makes school advocacy like just the best because it's really what we do. We want our students to have equal opportunities for educational justice, equal opportunities for participation in educational activities, and then having a voice in that system, and we are a voice. When I thought about this topic as well, I asked my friends that are in the schools right now, what are your struggles? Or, what are your constant themes that you feel that you're constantly talking about or advocating for, or that you just feel like it's just your theme? What are your themes? And these are some of the ones that they talked about. They talked that push in and pull out services, appropriate treatment settings for safety needs due to lack of rooms, sensory accommodations for classroom strategies, promoting inclusivity for autism, that we're just not handwriting teachers. I think a lot of us can probably resonate with that. Getting flack for, having to do cross with children, why aren't we doing handwriting? Because we're not just handwriting teachers. Families understanding our laws and the laws and the idea. I also got some really nice feedback from my physical therapist friends. We're understanding adaptive equipment, both payment and families understanding the benefit. The AD accessibility in schools, especially schools in rural areas, getting children up and down stairs that are in wheelchairs. We still struggle with that in some of our schools in our districts, including kids in PE classes with adaptations. Getting teachers to realize the difference between outpatient and school-based services, because there's a huge difference, and letting the kids be independent. We have a very litigious society, and they're definitely afraid of lawsuits on many ends between therapists, between districts, between stakeholders that can really stifle the child's independence. Those were their thoughts, but I really want to know what your guys' thoughts were on these subjects. And this is a Mentimeter, and what you guys can do, you can use your phone with the QR code, or you can, I'm gonna add into the chat a link directly to the Mentimeter for you as well, if you're not comfortable using the, or your phone for the QR code. And I'm sorry if I will pop the QR code back up on the screen for you guys here in just a second. There you go. And then what I want you to do is just type in your thoughts, what are your struggles? What are your themes that you see that you find that you're constantly struggling with or you keep advocating for? What are they? Carryover, student equipment needs, caseload versus workload. As you guys keep putting that in caseload, that's hard. We are all burned out in the schools. People don't understand, we're seeing 15 or more kids in groups and individuals doing IEPs, which are like 100 pages long. We're not getting paid a lot, and then trying to take all this work. Collaboration time, self-doubt, teachers. I know we have teachers pull us in from the hallways. Chat here. Supplies, equipment, lack of administration, sensory versus behavior. Wow, we've had a lot of that, especially after COVID. We struggle, inconsistent administration. Oh, present. Sorry, guys. I forgot to share my presentation screen so y'all can see what everyone's writing. Supplementary aids, inclusion, not having my own space. Yeah. Working in the hallways, working in the gym, pay scale, supply budget. We're often doing our own supplies, complex cases. You're alone. Oftentimes we're alone in school districts, high caseload, school versus outpatient as well, collaboration. See if there's anything else that comes in. Yep. Program guidance, ELL students. Teacher implementation, communication with administration. I really loved your guys' word cloud. I think a lot of these same topics are resonating with everyone. A lot of your guys' topics sound a lot of what my therapist, not my therapist, my friends are even talking about. It's a struggle. We're all having these struggles that we're needing to advocate for, and need ways to do it or some help to do it. And I don't think there's any really right road to get there. I think there's many different ways to advocate, many different paths to advocate for, and it's because it's going to depend on our district, our stakeholders. How can we go about it? So there's different ways to educational advocacy, and it all depends what we need and what we want, to go about it and get around to hopefully advocate for what we need are. Some of the one of the biggest ones that we can do is inform and educate. Educating our stakeholders is the biggest thing. They want to know why. They want the data. They want facts and figures. That's a huge. They want that objective data from us, before change is going to happen. The one thing I really learned when I was going through some of the research about, just advocacy in general is, taking our platform basically, and even going a step further, beyond our, I think, stakeholders that we always talk to, like the principal and the superintendents and our teachers and our other teachers, our aides. Are we educating the community? Do they know about our district's achievement and vision and what our district needs? Do they understand the value that our district provides to students in the community? Are we getting that word out? Are we getting the success stories out? There is so much value to the success stories of our students, and there's so much value to how we can deliver those messages. They talk about how the value that we can impart, our message, based on our passion, our beliefs from our stories, because we're not getting paid as advocates to tell those stories. We just know how what we're doing works. So how we can deliver that message is so impactful. That's really, helps turn policymakers. It really, gets them to listen, really back in 1972, it was families that helped Congress understand that they were violating the 14th Amendment by not allowing their students with disabilities to attend school. Um, First of all, I think it's sad that it was only 52 years ago, because to me, 52 years ago was not that long ago. But it took families to talk about how not allowing their child with a disability to attend school was just a violation of their rights. And that law that they got put in place is now IDEA. That's what we know as IDEA. It's gone through many iterations, but that's what we have now because of those families telling their stories, making an impact. But we can have that same kind of impact, but it comes from informing, it comes from the stories, and it comes from educating. We talk about engaging with stakeholders, but I think even again, taking that even a step further, what relationships can we build with key community influencers? You know, what local business leaders can we help us? Um, Key legislators, even nonprofit organizations, can we get on board to help us with what our, if we want programming, um, can they help us with what our cause is? Are there meetings and events that we can attend, that again, that we can share our story with and build support? Build support for our district. There are social media groups that we can join, start a blog, a website, or a newsletter if that's something that you're passionate about and are good at. That's something that I'm not good at, but there are people that are fantastic at social media. How can we leverage our existing relationships as well? Um, we all know someone that knows someone that knows someone. It's amazing how we are all really connected. I always tell my students, especially in the world of OT, always be careful because we know an OT that knows an OT that knows an OT, and we all talk. So be careful who you talk to, because we're gonna find out that information at some point in time. So who do we know? What stakeholder that we know that we can connect with, that's gonna help support our district, help support our cause, and have some reach and influence to help, advocate for what we need, whether it's a program that we want in our school, help it get more involved with MTSS. What do we need to really balance out some of these issues? How can we focus on these long-term goals? We need to advocate for a long-term goal and vision, rather just immediate needs. A lot of stakeholders, they want to know sustainable growth and improvement. And what we read in the chat earlier was workload versus caseload. Well, they want to know sustainability. Can they make that sustainable? So it's trying to figure out long term, if we want to get that caseload down and balance that caseload or workload, how can we make that sustainable for the district? That's the piece we have to figure out. That's our long-term goal. It might take us a while to get there and figure that out, but how can we figure that out to get that there? What's the research that we can get? And there is research out there for workload to caseload. But how can we present that material? How can we inform and educate our stakeholders to get to that point, to make it sustainable, to inform them, to hopefully our long-term goal being that maybe we can somehow get our caseloads down and make it more manageable. Same thing, I know another part was even getting a space. How can we get that space, in that school? Is there a space somewhere? The last point, and I think we know this as OTs because we work with kids in the schools and we work with children. We have to be honest. We have to be transparent. We have to be authentic. If we're not, they're not going to trust us, and they're going to just be like, "Nah, we're done with you." And the same thing when we're dealing with any kind of stakeholders. Be honest about our challenge and your need, and be honest about your strength and your success, because the authenticity that you build is going to gain trust and credibility with all your stakeholders, and it's going to make your advocacy efforts really effective. And the next step we have to do is collaborate. I think especially sometimes when we're in the schools, we're often alone, and it's very lonely. We oftentimes we might be in one district, but we're servicing maybe three districts, depending what type of contract we have or where we're working. So how can we connect with other people to support us? How can we build those leadership skills? we need to build leadership skills, but I know a lot of you in here have great leadership skills. So how can you model those skills to others so that we can collectively gain insights and experience and have better effective strategies? Why it's doing that. So we can have this collective power to drive change more effectively and move those issues forward. How that pack of cats, the pack, just to really collaborate more effectively so no one feels alone. I know, again, collaboration was one of the things on the struggle. How can we reach out? How can we build more of a community between us, between districts, so we don't feel like it's just us in one area feeling this heaviness of what we need. How can we change the status quo? What are we saying? Is it new? Um, what are we talking about? What do we need? Can we change what we're asking and make it a new idea? How can we spark the change? Contact those policymakers, let them know, like, hey, we have a fresh idea, we have something new, or change around so we can tell them this is why this is important. And at the same time, we're going back to that inform and educate. We are building our knowledge and developing expertise to really strengthen that platform. The more we know about what we want and research behind it, especially those facts and figures, because they want to know, the better we have to really help our cause. But we have to be patient. This is a picture from Cocoa Beach, and I don't know if any of you guys like the beach or all of you like the beach. I love the water, but it's always a tease for me. You go across the boardwalk and you get to the first sand dune. You think you're almost there, and you get over that first sand dune, and it's still a long walk over the hot beach that you have to go through. So you're trudging through the hot sand, and it's hot and it's hard. And I'm sorry, when you get older, it's even worse till you get to the hard packed sand where it gets a little easier until your toes finally reach the water. It's a long process, but the journey's worth it because you finally reach the water. Kind of the same thing. Be patient. It does help. It does come. We have to make sure we have effective communication strategies along the way. Again, I love OT. It's the best job in the whole world. Therapeutic use itself. I mean, we have that in our arsenal already. So we are great at active listening. We are already paying close attention to other people's perspectives and concerns. We have empathy in our back pocket. We are reflecting. So we're taking time to process the information. And it's okay to really step back and be like, I really need a minute to really think about what you're saying, especially if we may not have all the research down pat yet. And it's okay to say, you know what, we need to have another meeting because I need to really take back what you're saying back to the drawing board and get that information back to you. What is that tailored message? Do you have that audience specific talking points for maximum impact? We all have scripts in our back pocket, especially when we talk about what OT is to people, right? We know how to talk about OT very, very effectively, but are we able to talk about what we need and advocate for very effectively? Can we do it in 30 and 45 seconds? Again, a hook, wrap that person in so they know what we want very clearly and concisely and very persuasively. But we know there's barriers. We all have barriers. The first one, and we've talked about this, throughout, is our knowledge gaps. Where is your gap in knowledge? What do you know? What do you know really well, and what don't you know? How can you address that gap in knowledge? Where do you need to research? Do you know the law? Do you understand idea, where you fit? And is it through IEPs, the plan? Do you know it well enough? Resistance to change. We all know this, and I will call myself out. I like to think I'm very flexible, but I know for a fact that when I feel like I have a process down pat, I don't want to change it because it works so well and smooth that why do I want to rock the boat? So when someone brings me a new process, I'm like, no, 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 it works. Don't change it. But I need to step back and be like, no, we need to try this because this is working better. So we have to develop strategies to engage those people that are resistant to that change, and so we need to get them on our side because change is hard for people. Um, and that next step is that resource limitation. And I think we all know money. they're going to ask, how much is it going to cost? You know, if it doesn't cost us anything today, my PowerPoint's not liking me today. It's doing its own thing. If it's not going to like me today, or is the money's here today, great. But how are you going to do it next year? How are you going to do it next semester? Where's the money coming from? Again, that's sustainability. Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for it next time? There's if you need to find those dollar signs. We also have to look at policies. There are policies built in the school systems that can really hinder advocacy approaches. And then we need to make sure we're staying engaged. Be persistent. Again, it's a long-term process, but we need to make sure we're avoiding burnout. Again, have that collective ability to have that collaboration, that pack of cats, so to speak. Have those people around you to make sure that you're supporting each other and taking those small steps. It takes time. But again, from the start, advocacy doesn't have to be this huge thing. Small changes are big impacts. And then sometimes that's all it is. What small change can we make that's going to improve not only your life, but that child's life, the teacher's life, the whole district's life? And last but not least, at least for engagement, if we don't speak up, nothing's ever going to change. And this is, I think, even a hard lesson even for me to learn, I think even personally and professionally. If we don't tell someone what we want, they're never going to know. And to sit there and think that they're just going to automatically know, it's just not going to happen. No one has, ESP. They're just not going to know. We have to make it known somehow. And again, taking those steps is a good way of just getting that message out to them. I do want to touch upon self-advocacy because, again, we are great self-advocates for other people. We are great advocates for our students. We are great advocates for their families. We are great advocates for teaching people, for our teachers, but are we great advocates for ourselves? We have to take care of ourselves. I know OT is a high burnout job. I know school systems is a high burnout area. Caseload workload's a huge example. You're running from district to district. You are seeing back-to-back students with eating the lunch and trying to do notes, finish IEPs. You're getting pulled out, stopped in the hallways. It's exhausting. So are you taking care of yourself? Are you advocating yourself? So understand what you need. Making sure you're taking control of your own life choices and direction, personal decision making, making sure you're seeking knowledge and issues that matter to you. Again, building that supportive network and building people that are supporting you that can assist and advise you, building you up. Understanding rights and awareness, your rights and responsibility as an individual, and learning and understanding your own self-determination, your own real self-efficacy. That's just going to really help your self-confidence. Um, it's going to really empower you. It'll help increase your independence and self-confidence. It brings about stronger relationships, hopefully stave off that burnout effect, because this is a lot of work. Urgh. It's going to help with problem solving skills and hopefully lead to greater life satisfaction. And I hope I didn't talk way too fast. But thinking about all these little facts and steps, and I hope there's a nugget that we can take here. I do want to go back to those struggles that we all listed this first time. And is there anything that we can think of and use again? Is there any of these steps that you think you could use towards your advocacy efforts um, moving forward? Hopefully that makes sense. Um, so we can go back to the Mentimeter, and there's gonna be a different Mentimeter. I think all of you can see it. Um, and think about those steps we talked about. Are there any little nuggets of information that would be a better platform, or not better, but that resonates with you to help with any of those struggles, any kind of steps you can take? I'll leave the QR code up a little bit longer. And then I also threw in the direct link in the chat as well. of treatments and gather data on outcomes. Making needs known. It's hard. Making your needs known is super, super hard. I struggle with it. I'll call myself out. Making use of my existing networks of contacts. I think that's another point too. When I was looking through, there's so many people that we're connected to that we don't even know, that we can reach out to help us gather allies, more savvy social media. I hate social media. I'm so sorry. I'm not good at it. I need to have someone to boost social media. That's awesome. Being able to communicate with other stakeholders beyond building level. Ah, awesome. Propose subtle communications changes to build a bigger. Love it. These are phenomenal. I think these are all really great responses. I'll give a couple more seconds if anyone else wants to add anything to these steps. Um, but these are great. I think these are all very, very doable too, and very meaningful. Did I stop share? Did I share that? Did you guys see that? No, you guys didn't see that. Can you see it now? That'd be helpful. Here you guys go. I didn't realize you didn't see it. My bad. Um, so here you guys go. Power in numbers, get other OTs to join the cause, creating boundaries. And so thank you, creating boundaries. That's part of that self-advocacy. I'm horrible at creating boundaries. I've been working on it. I don't know if anyone else is horrible about it. And self-goal is to reach out to others, see how they're doing, because we're not alone in our thoughts. That's fantastic. I think we all need to, not all, that's a great one, educating, being able to communicate. I'm sorry, I thought I had my screen was still saved and I realized I took it down. So hopefully you guys can see these ones. Um, we do have, I don't know if anyone's been to AOT or have been to AOT. We are so we are numerous. There is power in numbers and we do know a lot of each other. And I think often in school, again, we are so isolated that oftentimes I think we think we're alone, but we really are not alone. AOTA has another really great resource. It's their everyday advocacy decision guide. Um, and they have like a nice little checklist and it's ways to advocate, establish credibility. They give you some tips on preparing for difficult conversations, utilizing your strengths, being a champion for OT, engaging in leadership, and they give you some other resources. But that's straight on their website, and that's another resource we all can use. And then we're at questions. I will stop my share. Okay. And I talk fast and I apologize, but questions. Thanks, Holly. I took mine down.
I have a question. I'm just wondering like what you've done with your maybe I missed, sorry, I was not here in the beginning, but are there certain projects you've done or things you've advocated for that have been successful?
Yeah. Lot smaller. So I've done some groups. I've been able to do specifically for the school systems or in general.
But just in general.
In general. Um, Mostly for being able to do groups that I wanted to do programming. I've been able to being able to advocate for, and the way I've been able to be successful for it is by research and making sure I'm covering costs and bringing those facts and figures to my supervisor, whoever's in charge. That's the biggest way. And getting your stakeholders behind you. If you know who your so I worked for a nonprofit agency at one point. So knowing who your board of directors were and being able to present to the board, and again, bringing those facts and figures, um, the stories so work. At one point, we wanted iPads for our clinic. So when we showed how the iPads work in the programming, they loved seeing the kids work with it. They really thought it was a great idea, and they wrote checks right then and there. So those were some really, really great success stories, being able to advocate for our center and for the children and our therapists. I think they bought, at the time we had 10 therapists, they bought one for each of us. We were able to get a grant from our county. So that was more grant funding, but still, um, we were able to continue on with it through um, community connections, finding out who in the community knew our programming, knew how good, not how good, but that we really cared about the kids that we saw. And that name was able, not that name, but our dedication was really was what helped us. Um, those were some really great things. Um, Being able to speak up, being passionate. Sometimes it's hard. Like I said, I'm not a big social media person. That I just not me. I'm more of an in person. I'm gonna tell you my facts and figures. I'm gonna give you the bottom line, but I'm also gonna give you a good story. I'm a storyteller, so I'm gonna tell you my story. This is why it works. That's what's worked for me. I hope that helps, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you. It's helpful to hear like specific projects like the iPad.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
absolutely. Thanks, Holly. How do you not burn out between performing your OT duties and having raising money for supplies, equipment, and just having her discipline certified for IFL? Woo! Life balance. Um, I work with some really fantastic people. The collaboration and having a wonderful, wonderful group of people behind you is how you don't burn out. When you don't have good people, when you don't have a good team, that's when you burn out. Truly, um, the part about having collaboration, having a team of people, and having a good mix of people that have stronger leadership skills that can model and different ability to collaborate and then take on different aspects of projects. That's what you need. Otherwise, you will burn out. You will burn out fast. Because you can't do it on your own. At least I can't do it on my own. I've tried, and then trying to balance family and have a good work-life family balance it it I it doesn't happen. So that's having a great team, and I've worked with some really fantastic people that and just laugh, have fun. You need to have fun. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but if you can laugh and have a good amount of people that will help you and work with you, that'll help and not burn out. Because it does take time. The process is long. You'll get a lot of no's along the way. So you're having to celebrate those yeses. You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you build the confidence to speak up and actually start advocating for yourself when you feel, there's a lot of self-doubt, low confidence, especially when you are alone. So how would you build that confidence?
I would try to find a mentor for, try to find someone that you can connect with. Because I'm sure you are doing wonderful because you're in the job for a reason. I, I think OTs are amazing. Um, it's so hard when you're alone because no one's giving you any feedback. No one's, you're always told what you're not doing, especially in the schools. You're always told that your productivity is not enough. You're you're behind on your paperwork, you're behind on your IEPs, you didn't do this, you didn't get your service in, your service times in. You never feel like you're enough. It's so hard to feel like you're confident and you're doing enough, but you are. So I will tell you two things. First of all, we do our job. Why? Why do we do our job? First and foremost, because of the kids. So as long as my kid is happy and I'm making them happy, I'm doing a damn good job. So that's first and foremost. So then I'm doing a great job. So we're doing good. We're all doing a great job. So then I got to build myself the other way. So how, if I can find someone that can help me build up good leadership skills or little talking points, that'll help. And even if they can go with me, even to build slow little confidence, it doesn't happen overnight. Um, I don't know where my starting it started. I started sticking up for myself a long time ago. It didn't happen overnight because, man, I was really, really quiet in high school. But I will tell you, the very first time I advocated for myself was in high school. It was a program that the district didn't want to pay for. I was able to go to a college level program. They told us no, and I stood up and just started talking. And I don't know what happened, but and I got them to pay for the program for 8 kids, 8 students in high school, and that's where my journey started. But I still struggle. Even like right now, I'm nervous as all heck. But and it's hard. So I can't even tell you it goes away. So I'm sweating. But you find people that that you trust that knows that can help build your skills and help build your knowledge. And every little piece of knowledge you get helps build that confidence too. So knowledge builds your confidence as well. But if you're treating that kid right, though, too, that's your first step because you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I saw a question that said, thank you. I loved the idea of advocating more, but sometimes I'm not sure where to start. What is one small thing I could do tomorrow that could make a difference?
It goes back to what you're passionate about, and maybe start with your own self-advocacy. And I think maybe that goes back to what Charmaine was even saying too, building your own self-advocacy first. So I think that's a great place to start. So if you don't know where to start on a whole, start with yourself. And that's where I would start. Because it's daunting, it's overwhelming. And again, like with our first Metameter that we put up, you guys put up a ton. And there's a ton of, there was some overlap, but there wasn't a lot of overlap. There was like, I think 30 responses, and most of them were fairly individualized. So we know there's a lot of different a lot of different problems that you probably all are synonymous with, or so yeah. How do you advocate for the need for OT when there's, Whew. Kelly, great question. Educating. You need to educate. Um, and I know that sounds like an easy answer. I will use the example of we're not just handwriting teachers, or I've had teachers go to me like, well, why are you doing crafts with my kid? Their goal is handwriting. Well, because cutting and coloring is building both sides of the hand. It's building stability and mobility of the grasp pattern, which is all needed for them to write their letters. But you have to have that down. You have to have that knowledge down for them. And you have to have maybe that research, pull that research out for them, go back to the drawing board. Sometimes it is about compromising a little bit, depending, because it's hard. This is a double-edged question though too, because we know it's about compromise. This is not an easy question, because we have families that we deal with. We can't always, we can't always, oh, we can't always, huh, we can't always, we have to compromise sometimes. But what I try to, the best answer is just trying to explain, educate, pull our research by OT, like this is why you're doing your treatment plan. This is why it's going to be effective, to get your point across the best way you can, and trying to find at least an even playing field of, between the two if you can. I hope that makes sense. I know, because I know it's not an easy answer. I know it's not an easy answer. I hope that helped though.
Jeannie, I see you have your hand up. You can go ahead. I think you're on mute.
Yep, hi, thanks. I actually really like the advice of like starting with yourself. No, you're wait for a second. I like the advice of like starting with yourself and self-advocacy. Wait a minute, I'm gonna tell a story. I was the advocacy director for my state organization for a little while. I had no idea what I was doing. So I kind of got thrown in, and I like literally the first week I was like doing it, I had to plan our whole lobby day and I had no clue what I was doing. So I had to organize all these volunteers and all these people and figure out what topic we were doing and try to figure out what was timely and organize things and communicate and run webinars. And I was so out of my depth that I burnt out really fast. So at that piece of advice, just hang on. Starting with yourself is very salient. So that was that.
I hope so. I hope everyone got something. You could pull something from this. That's my goal, because I know you all are advocating, whether you think you're not. I think we're just natural advocators and leaders in our field. So I hope you can pull something from this.
I absolutely agree with Veronica. I feel like we each needed the pep talk of we're not alone in feeling lost in the advocacy.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. I appreciate listening. I appreciate Bay Path.
Definitely appreciate you sharing your expertise and insights. I do want to share with everyone that we will be sharing the presentation recording and the slides with you after the fact. And you'll also be getting an email for CEUs. For any questions, if you think of any after the fact about the programs or for Dr. Dixon, feel free to reach out. This is the contact information. Again, you'll receive the slides, so you don't have to write everything down. We appreciate you all for joining us tonight. Again, the recording and the slides will be shared soon, and we hope to see you at future events.